Should be able.
It's just we're firemen. We can adapt and overcome anything.
Just go over to the kitchen instead of in the living room. So.
Gotcha. Well, welcome. I sang your praises, just telling everybody who you were.
I know nobody from nowhere, pretty much.
Well, you are a humble guy, but you are the brains behind the Journeyman Fire Conference, the Journeyman Firefighter Podcast. You are an instructor at FDIC, Andy Frederick Training Days, Art of Firemanship Conference. And like I said to everybody that was watching, you are a fireman's fireman. So I'm really excited to have a good talk with you today about everything that's going on. I've had the pleasure of posting an article on Firehouse Vigilance that you wrote, and also I'm going to publish the one you made a post about the Civil War, and I really enjoyed that post. And so I asked you if I could publish it as an article, and you said go for it. So that one's coming out also. So I already introduced you a little bit, but you can go ahead and just kind of say who you are, and then we'll kick this thing off proper.
I'm Kiel Samsing. I'm a lieutenant in the city of Newport News, Virginia. I'm at Company 2, the East End Engine House. That shapes a lot of what I do and what I talk about. I'm very big on doing what you do. We have 2 engines in my firehouse. So one runs front, second, and then a rescue and a medic unit. I'm also a part-time guy in the city of West Point, which is a town I live in, small town, about 3,000 people.
Gotcha.
I'm on call tonight. That's probably why you see the job shirt and all that. But, okay. Been in the fire service for almost 15 years now. I've got 11 years in the city of Newport News. Been in West Point for about 2.5. I volunteered before that, and then all the way back into college. So if you include that, which I don't because it's not firefighter 1 and 2 time, it was just hanging around the firehouse. Cumulative time, I've got almost 19 years, but actual being up at the firehouse and doing stuff is probably around 15. So.
Nice. What was the impetus to say I'm going to start my own conference, and then not only that, but then now my own podcast?
So I've always wanted to try the conference thing. I went to Portland, and I was blown away by what I saw in Portland. I did my first one a month before my first trip to Portland, but I had seen Andy Frederick. I haven't been Andy Frederick every year but 2 years. And I just thought there was a need for it in the area. There's a lot of local, smaller rural departments where I live that are kind of stuck between Richmond and then the Tidewater area of Virginia. Tidewater's like Hampton, Newport News, Norfolk, Virginia Beach, that kind of area. And then the Richmond area, metro area. So there's a lot of small departments around here that don't get the exposure that they probably need or that they deserve to big names in the fire service. So that was a big thing. The other thing is I became a task force member for Sons of the Flag. So I really wanted to raise some money for them and local burn camps. We go up and we cook meals for the Central Virginia burn camp. I've done that 2 years in a row now. Well, as long as it happens with all this going on, hopefully make it a third. But between the 2 years of the conference, we were able to raise almost $50,000.
Wow.
So the first year, 20 went to the Central Virginia burn camp, $10,000 went to the VCU Burn Center, Evans Haynes Burn Center, which is the first civilian burn center in the country. And then this year we were able to do about $10,000 for Sons. Local, we had a police officer die in the town that we were in. So they were trying to do a physical fitness program for the volunteers, paid staff, and the police. So we're going to give some money to that, as well as the school that hosts us. They have a pretty robust drama department. We want to make sure that they're taken care of as well.
That's awesome.
So I'm not sure where it goes from here. We're kind of, anybody that doesn't know the conference thing, it's kind of become oversaturated. And that's a good thing. I mean, there's a lot of things going on out there. And so I'm not sure if we're going to do every other year or if we're going to fold it up and see what we do going forward. But I'm really proud of what we were able to do for local firefighters and the money that we were able to raise in the long run. At the same time that started, Grant Schwalbe out of Estero and Lieutenant Andrew Zisk, newly promoted, congratulations, Andrew Zisk, both contacted me individually about doing a podcast. Podcast necessarily isn't my kind of style of things, but I like both those guys a lot, and I really thought that we could have something there between the three of us, between people we know and our ability to talk to certain people. So that kind of kicked off. We used the same kind of name because of the journeyman process in the trades unions. You go from journeyman to apprentice to journeyman to master. You never in a fire service. I don't really think you ever get to that point of being a master.
Right,
There's just
right.
too many things to do. So you're always a journeyman. You're always working. I made a post that in the NFL, a journeyman quarterback's a terrible thing to be, but in the American Fire Service, a journeyman's a very good thing to be because you're constantly working, constantly learning from people that you're around, and constantly improving your perishable craft. So.
Awesome. That is awesome, man. I have a couple questions for you here that came up. I'm going to read them real quick. First one is Lucas Chu says, good, thanks. Do you all have programs in-house that focus on officer development outside of the textbook? I'll let you speak for you.
We do not. We currently are working on it. We've got a new fire chief that's working and revamping all that. He's really big into officer development, but right now we don't have any of those programs. It's just kind of been read the book, test out. Welcome to your first day on the floor. We did one a few years ago that was just like a trial run to see how it worked. And I thought it did really well, but the overtime costs limited about what they could do in the future. So hopefully they'll bring back kind of what my buddy Joe started a couple of years ago. But as of right now, we don't have anything
Sorry.
in writing. Oh, you're good.
He's protecting the house, I guess. Sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean my dog to interrupt you.
Oh no, that's it. That's we
Okay.
don't have anything formal. We just have what you've done outside, and it's kind of how you get better. And you're kind of given a tick on the first day and put up front and said, "Hey, welcome to be the boss."
Go for it.
So
there you go.
Yes.
If you're lucky, you had a good mentor.
Yeah.
That's ours. Ours is, has grown quite a bit especially over the last probably 5 to 10 years. We now have a academy in place that. The 2-week academy for everybody that promotes that they have to pass before they move on. And there's quite a bit of development put into that 2-week academy where they bring in guys from the department to actually teach different parts of the class and things like that. So in answer to your question, there's a little bit outside the book, and it's growing every day as we move forward. Also asked, and this one's from Nathan McDade. Oh, maybe if I can get rid of there we go. He asked, where can you listen to the podcast at, Kyle? And I can basically, I've never.
It's
on. You're upside down.
Am I upside down? All right, hold on.
Yeah.
I'm trying to my phone
you're
charge,
good.
but I only have the wireless charger, so it's kind of.
No, there you go.
Are we good? All right. So you can get it on iTunes. You good?
You're good.
Okay. Yeah, you can get it on iTunes. You can get it on Brothers in Battle on their website. I think you can get it on some of the Android platforms. I'm an Apple guy. I'm an iTunes guy. So anything outside of that, I'm not really for sure on. But you can always go to the Brothers in Battle and listen right from there with the other podcasts that they do as well.
No, and I can say that I'm an Android guy, and I've never had any trouble. I've used like 2 or 3 different podcast apps, and it's on every one of them. So if you just search for Journeyman Firefighter, it pops up on almost every platform I've seen. So, and
we should be doing some more here now that it's our load's lightening up. With guys like I have an 11-month-old at home, so things are starting to lighten up.
Right.
For me, Grant and Andrew should be starting to do some more here shortly. We've kind of been slacking the last couple of years or months, but we'll be back into it shortly.
I was going to say, it's one of my favorite podcasts. I don't say that lightly. I listen to Jocko. I listen to a lot of Joe Rogan and the Journeyman, and I listen to anything firefighter related, but it really is. In fact, that's my only complaint about it is there's not enough of them. So
it's
a good complaint.
To do with 3 different schedules. We try to do a little bit different. I really don't think anybody wants to hear Grant, myself, or Andrew speak. We do a little bit, but we try to really focus on the guest. We try not to think of it as a morning show. We don't do a lot of banter at the beginning. We kind of cut right to the chase. And if you've heard the Fields one or the one with Laguerre, Laguerre I think Laguerre is an hour and a half, and Fields is almost 2 hours of him. I think we asked maybe a question or two.
Go ahead.
It's just nothing but gold. And these guys, their knowledge and their ability to relate it to people is just fantastic. And I know we were kind of typing in our little side conversation during it. We were afraid to jump in. So you can hear a couple times we're like, but they provided with so much great information. And I know it's really tough to get Fields on stuff like that. It's just not his medium. And it changed. I was writing notes while we were recording, and it changed the way I think about my teaching process and the way that I, not necessarily how I teach a class, but the steps we build in the learning process that we go into. Because I never thought of oh, what's this learning process that academics have been going through and going for
Right.
years. And as soon as I researched, I'm like, oh, I've been doing some of that, but that really makes a lot of sense. And it's just, I hate to toot my own horn, but it's not really us. It's Aaron that really makes that podcast, really good.
No, you said the two I wrote down on my notes here. Episode 4, Aaron Fields, one of the most amazing podcasts episodes. I have passed that out to so many people and said, dude, you got to listen to this. It's long. And the way you guys let him run, and I mean, it was just great hosting. I cannot say that enough. And then the other one you mentioned, episode 9, was with Dennis Laguerre. Those are my 2 favorite episodes you guys have done. Phenomenal.
And we try to do different things than they normally talk about. Like, okay, we can have Aaron on, talk about nozzle forward.
Sure.
But that's what everybody has done, or we want to have Laguerre on. Let's talk about, I think we talked about hydrants and above ground water for almost 45 minutes.
The AWS thing, I had no idea until I listened to that. I've seen that on so many things. So
it's mind-blowing to people that go back and listen to it. I know I learned so much from it. It's a really enjoyable medium, and I really enjoy doing them. We're going to try to have those guys back on and try to do another thing.
Until I listened to episode 4, I know the name Aaron Fields. Of course I know Nozzle Forward. I had no idea the depth of that guy's knowledge on instruction. I mean, it was impressive to listen to.
Oh, he's an impressive person, that's for sure.
So those are awesome things. Now then, you also, how do I put this in the best possible light? You also tend to make people angry.
I wouldn't say angry. I tend to speak my mind. I learned. I'm trying to say how to play it nicely because I'm trying to do better. I have been trying to be better about it. I have been sober now since the middle of January.
Okay.
Anybody that's out there, if they want to talk about it, I think we put far too much emphasis in the fire service on alcohol and alcohol-related activities, and there's kind of a stigma and shame behind not drinking. I got to give props to guys like Rick George and other guys like that really forced me and supported. It got me where I need to be. Some of that was alcohol related, putting my guard down and allowing me to say things I probably shouldn't have said.
Right.
But a lot of it is how I feel. I am an old school punk kid. I don't hide that fact. I'm pretty anti-establishment. Are we still running here? It's kind of circled through us. Sorry.
No, it buffered for a second.
We good?
We're good.
Okay. So, I'm kind of anti-establishment, and I saw a side of the fire service that I wasn't necessarily enjoying. I like the big conferences. I think they're great. I didn't like a lot of the business aspect of stuff I was seeing. I don't like the glad handing and the I'm friends, to somebody's face, and then you turn around and you talk to the same guy and you're like, oh, this guy. I think it's kind of disingenuous, and I am who I am. I don't hide who I am. I'm going to say the same thing to somebody's face as I'm going to put on Twitter. I try not to be too confrontational, but I'm not going to hide those things. And I'm going to tell people how I feel. Like, I think last night I put something that the ULFSRI studies they're not. They're just demonstrations with wires. Let's call it is what it is. There's no replication. There's not really any true science. It's great information, but let's not get wrapped and think this is some sort of revolution. You're just you're getting information that we've known for years and being able to quantify it. And that rubs certain people the wrong way. And when I say, these people make so much money for this or so much money for that, and you have magazines that are driving content, and of course people don't say it, but that's their job. They're a fire service magazine. They have people that work for them. That's their job as an editor-in-chief or as somebody that works for them. They're supposed to keep the people under them employed. They're supposed to sell magazines. And people think of it as shots, but it's not. I really like Bobby Halton. People think that I have an issue with him because I say some things, but it's not true. Bobby Halton has a business to run. Bobby Halton is the editor-in-chief of Fire Engineering Magazine. His goal is to sell magazines to the fire service, push the fire service forward, and keep people employed. There's nothing wrong with that. But you start saying some things that people start going, he says this and he says that. Okay, I understand that. But just because I'm saying it doesn't mean it's wrong. Just because people haven't said it in the past doesn't mean it's incorrect. I know that a lot of people don't say things because they feel it'll alienate themselves from the positions they can do to reach people. people don't want to say things because they don't want to be kicked out of conferences because they feel like, hey, this is our chance to reach certain people. And if I'm not there, somebody else will be spreading a message. And the funny thing is it's never personal. There's a lot of guys that I disagree with quite a lot. If you go on Twitter, Lane Woolery and I, and some of these guys have gone back and forth for days on end of just tactics and basic understanding of what we think is right or wrong. But then we all met in New York at a fire conference, and we all got along with chops. It's not a personal thing. It's just a professional difference of an opinion with certain things. And a lot of the guys out there that I've met will agree with that. You can take what you want on what you think I say on social media or my brashness, and that's fine. It's always going to be who I am, and I've always been known for that. I've always been known for being a little hard-headed and not changing my opinion and standing by what I think is right. And that's going to be me forever. But it doesn't make me a bad person. It doesn't make I think anybody else is a bad person.
Right on. Right on. Hey, speaking your mind, it can't be a bad thing. Especially
it absolutely can be a bad thing because I know I have not gotten invites to certain conferences or been blackballed from certain things because but it's okay. I don't care. At the end of the day, I have my job as a fireman, and that job is to protect the citizens of Newport News and West Point where I live, and that's really all I need. If somebody told me tomorrow that I couldn't teach anymore or do anything like that, I'm quite all right. I love my job. I love my family. And that's really all I need. The rest is just icing on the cake.
Solid. If you had to pick top 3 things that make you angry then?
I'm not really so much of an angry guy. People think I am, but I'm not.
Right.
I don't know. Politics in the fire service. Like, not like politics, but like when somebody starts dragging political things in the fire service. I know inherently it is, but it's gotten out of control a little bit in the last couple of years.
Sure.
I would say writing off anybody. What we do in the best in the fire service, and I hate to say this, is we take a book and we judge it immediately by its cover and never change our opinion of it again. We've all made mistakes in our careers. We've all done stuff in the fire service that is that we own up to, it's a problem, we move on. But we tend to just say, oh, no, that guy said something I don't agree with. He's never right. We can never talk about anything again. Or, you get that rookie that everybody said all these things about. And you immediately write them off and you automatically label them the same way that the other people did. A lot of what we do isn't based in our actual perception, it's somebody else's perception. When I got to my station that I'm at now, my captain, she said, I'm sure you've heard a lot of things about me. They're all true. It doesn't matter. We all work on and we move forward together. I was like, wow, okay. You start fresh everywhere you go. And I think that's one of the biggest things we don't do. We don't give people a fresh start. We automatically paint them with a brush from somebody else's paint bucket. I think that's really unfair to people. There's a lot of shaming for stuff, whether it's their lack of experience, their department they work for, their appearance, the big thing has been fitness this guy. I'm not a small guy, but I can still do work. I had problems where after a couple of friends died that I drank heavy beers for a couple of years and added weight pretty quickly. And we shame people, and it's pretty pathetic that we've gotten to this point where people just shame people and run through the mud for nothing. So that's probably my third thing. Second and third probably there. But those things make it. Everything else, tactic differences and all that stuff, that's all, a lot of people read, oh, you got angry about that. Oh, you're misreading the tone of my text. A lot of my stuff on internet is snarky and smart ass, and a lot of the guys that I know can interpret it now and at least understand where I'm coming from. But, there is a level of anger there in the fire service that I think people are, kept underfoot to a certain extent, and I think that's a lot in society. And it's why I identify with the punk rock culture, and I wrote a thing a couple of months ago now, is punk rock in the fire services. I think there's a group of people in the fire service that are fed up and have had enough of being controlled by certain entities and other things and being told what they can and can't do. And I think that's where we're starting to get to the point. The guys in departments, whether it's a nozzle committee being told, listen, kid, you don't know what the hell you're talking about, or, this, that, the other. And meanwhile, they can provide numbers up and down the line of why these are better.
Right.
You can really ruin a person's career and their attitude just by telling them, get out of the way. No one cares about your training kid. So I think there is somewhat of a renaissance of an underground culture coming in the fire service, and I'm glad to see that, because a lot of guys have been, I don't want to say the word oppressed, because that's not the word for it, but kicked aside and told that, oh, you're passionate too much, or you care too much, and I think that's really wrong. Mark Van Oppen and Kurt down in Florida are really, really pushing that kind of stuff and understanding, listen, it's okay to be a fire squirrel. It's okay to say I listen to fire radio of other departments on my days off. It's stuff that's okay to do. And the guys that are doing that are going to make a positive change. And you're not going to hold them down. It's not going to be an angry reckoning. It's going to be a passionate reckoning. And I think that's what
Hey, Kyle.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm rambling.
Hey, no, you're good. You're good. See if you can pull the mic away from your shirt. Someone said that.
I don't use this mic very often on my headphones. So, is that better?
Oh, yeah. Much better.
Okay.
Sorry,
so
continue.
A lot of people view it as an anger, but it's much more of a passion that shines through a lot of people. But if you ask some of those guys, I don't think they would say they're angry. I don't think I'm angry. I don't think that's how it rolls off. But it definitely is a passion, and I think it comes from a lot of years from getting kicked down and being told you don't matter, or your views aren't coinciding with what the group thinks they should be. So
right. No, absolutely. And I think there's a lot of people that feel that way, and that's that connects with a lot of people. Lucas Chu was asking, is the Journeyman Fireman Conference coming back this year?
It's not going to be coming back in 2021. That's one thing we know for sure. Just too much local stuff. The Brad Clark one kicked off the year before, and I'd love to see that flourish. I wouldn't do anything to take people away from numbers for that. I just think it's such a good program.
Awesome.
Brad is just such an amazing human being. I tell him all the time back in the day that I was always jealous of his personality, his way to work a room. It's just a phenomenal person. And that was a friendship that started off a little rocky, too. We almost got in a bar fight about over slicers. He was wearing a Hanover shirt, which is where he works, and everybody at that time was coinciding Hanover with slicers, which I'll say this to everybody that's listening. Hanover does not use slicers. They are very aggressive firemen there in Hanover County. And me and that buddy of mine, we booed him every time we walked by. Well, about 6 times after that, he was sick of it, and a lot of chest poking going on. But we realized, very quickly we were cut from the same cloth, and just what an amazing human being. What a terrible life to cut short. And so I want to support those guys and do whatever they can possible. There may be something coming in the future. We maybe shift it further down the peninsula a little bit, down to my neck of the woods in Newport News. Not necessarily the Journeyman Conference, but something like that in the future. But we'll see. It definitely will be back in 2021.
Okay. Well, there's that answer. Always so many questions to ask. I always like to ask this question of every guest I have on, because you've traveled, you've taught, and you've touched a lot of fire department cultures. And I say, what do you see as the number one issue facing the American fire service?
Officer accountability. I see it everywhere from every department, including my own, no matter whether it's the full-time or the part-time department. Officers willing to draw that line in the sand and say, no. You're not there to be somebody's friend. You can be a buddy and a boss, but you don't have to be a buddy and a boss. And there's too many places where officers would rather just have a simple day because they don't want to put their foot down and enforce the rules than not. They just want to say, okay, I'm here, I'm doing my time, and we'll go. And that's unacceptable. You have to hold your people to a standard and enforce that standard. My guys know when they get off the truck in the morning what they need to check off, what they need to do, that we're going to hit some stuff up. And then if we get the training done, the rest of the day is theirs. I don't care if you lay down at 10 o'clock. You're going to be up on that medic all night. Hey, we run 12-hour medic shifts. So the 12-hour, the night crew, and the night trainings, we call it, from 8 to 8, go lay down, get your rest in. You do some training and you miss it, we'll make it up next day. But the basic things of the job need to be met. And if they're not met, then we need to reevaluate where we're going with things. But so many times, officers refuse to put their foot down and make those hard decisions and have those hard conversations. Whether it's, the driver doesn't know where he's going, the backstep guy doesn't know what lines to pull. Listen, set these expectations and roll them. I, in my, entire career, have only had one officer set expectations for me.
Wow.
I can probably guess that most people in the fire service has never had an officer sit down and go, hey, here's what we stand for. I went down to my new crew when I got promoted, and I got ridiculed for it. But I said, all right, here's the things, the 10 for you, 10 for me, from Mark Van Oppen.
Nice.
This is what I stand for, which I learned from a friend of mine, Dave Moore in Ohio. He lives, but his crew's motto is tough and confident. From the Apollo 1 mission, Gene Kranz made that speech, from here on out, NASA flight control will be known as two things, tough and confident. If you've never seen that speech, definitely something to look up. And that's what I tell my guys we are. Engine 2A, Company 2A, will be tough. They'll be known as tough and confident. I can't remember the whole thing off the top of my head, but that's how it is. Guys can look at me goofy all they want, but I run around the board every day, and we live by it. I think when I first got to my first station, I'm no longer there anymore. I did 10 for you, 10 for me. They printed out an old picture of me when I was like a 1-year guy playing rock band with like a fire helmet on from my Facebook and put it on there with me. And I'm like, great, cool. Took it off the wall and threw it down and said, we still apply. You're going to catch hell, but you know what? You're the officer. You're there to set these examples and set the accountability for your men and women. If you're not, you're failing them. If you're not expecting these people to do their jobs, they just come in and act like it's, a day working at the YMCA, that's on you. And when your company fails to perform on the fire ground, what's the first thing a company officer does when their company, can I curse now? Trying to hold F's up on the fire ground. They point away, right? They say, oh, it's not me. That's my crew. No, and that's you. Everything that happens in your firehouse is on you.
Dude,
from
love
top
it.
to bottom.
Love it.
And to pawn it off on anybody else is unacceptable. It's extreme ownership. And if you set that ownership, guess who else does the ownership? The guys underneath you.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the things you have to do. Empower your people. Okay, I have accountability, but guess what? You're the one that's going to set the medic rotation. You're the one that's going to switch this. That's your job. Also, like one thing in one of my senior guys, and he just got promoted. One of our guys, somebody kept saying his name wrong, and it frustrated him. And he said, "Hey, listen, that's not his name. This is how you say his name." And he probably went a little too verbose into it, but it's a big deal. Are you saying your guy's name right?
No doubt.
That's his last name. That's his identity. These are the things that matter. Or are you just saying, "Oh, this is my new guy. Say his name," and it's not right. That's one of the things as an officer you need to do. Does he have kids? Does he have a wife? When are these big events?
Oh, yeah.
When's their birthday? Do you not have a cake for him? Hey, he's going to training for 6 months. Do we have something that says some terribly awarding thing that will probably offend everybody outside the firehouse on it?
Your mic's messing up again.
Is it, did you get a cake for the guy that's leaving, that says something really offensive on it just because that's what the fire service does? If you're not, then again, your accountability as an officer is failing you. When I kept back to my new station, I got a message from people so I got detailed out for a year and came back. I got messages from this crew that said, "Welcome home." Those are the people you want to work with. Those are the people you want to care about. I like the old crew. I like the crew I was detailed with, but I think we have something special in what I'm working with downtown with Company 2A. And, to have those messages of welcome home.
Welcome home.
That's what you like to hear as an officer, that you think you're doing something in the right direction. And I've got guys that I think they know I'll throw down with any person above my rank outside the company to defend them. And
yes.
The same thing.
Love it.
And I think for the most part, well, I won't say for the most part, and they'll defend me too. We've done some stuff that people looked at. We've run the 400 from the block behind through a backyard to get to a fire on the CD side. People are like, "What was that?" I said, "Well, this is what I saw." And the guys were like, "It was the right call." My guys are saying, "Hey, this is right. This is what we're doing." And it goes a long way. And it builds trust from your captain to your junior man. And if you can have that accountability up and down, then you can move mountains every day at work. And then you can have that day where, "Hey, listen, we've been busy. We're not going to train today. But, 2 days from now, you better be ready to go to work."
Right on. Dude, I love it.
Yeah,
I've asked that question from a lot of people now, and that's the first time I've heard officer accountability being the answer. But that is so, so very true. And
it's such a weak point in the American Fire Service because it's so easy to tap your bugles and say, "Listen, it's them. It's not me. It's not my decisions. Everything in that company that happens is you. Everything that you allow is a mark of you." So when the battalion chief comes to you and chews your ass out, you can't go around and chew the other people out because you allowed whatever it was to happen.
And if you do, you're not a very good company officer. I'll say that right now. Awesome. Okay, so I always ask my guests if they have a book they would like. I'm an avid reader, and I try to always find books to read. In fact, my stack of books that I'm behind on reading is getting taller and taller because everybody always suggests such great books. So I always give the guest a chance to suggest a book that he thinks firefighters should read, and then so go for it.
So I have two.
Okay.
And I think they work well with it together. And I found this through, Chris Brennan in Fire Service Warrior. That kind of started my whole journey where I am. And so, to call Gary Lane and those guys a friend after reading them for years is phenomenal. And,
right on.
These guys are just great human beings. It's kind of coming back again, resurrection of the Fire Service Warrior. But Chris wrote a book a couple years ago called The Combat Position.
Okay.
As you can see, it's probably a little well worn out now, but I even got a bookmark in there. Look at it. You can tell how back my fire obsession goes to fire service. I mean, riding.
Awesome.
Riding an old Han back in that's Mercer County somewhere. So that's Aaron Heller where he's at. That's Mercer County is where I grew up in. So it's a great book. Really dives into physical and psychological aspects of the job, and just stuff you wouldn't think about. And then it works into On Combat, which is from Dave Grossman, which is actually a book from the military and law enforcement, but it has some really good lessons psychologically when it comes to firefighters and the stress that we deal with in dealing with different situations. I think they really prepared me for a lot of stuff as a company officer and a lot of stuff that I've rallied for as far as when I started teaching and even within the last couple of years. People would be a whole lot better off understanding the psychology of what we do, whether it's, the OODA loop with Boyd, or even, you start looking back into the, I think it's Van Clausewitz. I can't say, it's military thinking for even back then.
Yes.
And I'm not a big military leadership guy when it comes to the fire service. I think some of that stuff misses the mark because I just don't think we're military enough. We're paramilitary, but not really that much. But the thought processes and understanding, movement and counter movement and, art of war kind of type stuff. I think that absolutely does. Even though it's not a war, I think Dennis and I talked about this on the podcast, and it's more like recreational hunting where you put a deer in a fence and you go up and shoot it because the fire doesn't know you're coming for it. But it's really good stuff on thought processes and quitting and, you never let anybody die on the training grounds and, stuff like that. That's anytime we train, it's as realistic as possible, but I never let anybody die, never let anybody fail because we start reinforcing failure, and I think that's bad for people in the long run.
Okay. Nice. So On Combat and
the combat position.
Okay. Both of them have combat in them. I had a question for you here from Fire Medic Barlow. Okay. And he said he asked his chief, I don't know if I can get it back up here. He asked his chief the one thing an officer needs, and he said they need to make decisions off of facts and not emotion. What is your thoughts?
So, emotions are kind of taken out of it. I know we all have emotions, but you really do need to make your decisions based on what you're seeing on the fire ground. I try to limit decision making on the fire ground because I don't think we have enough time. So I eliminate decisions, and that's why when I teach, when I say, all right, people are like, oh, we have a cross-lay, it's a fog and a smooth bore. Well, no, it should just be a smooth bore or just be a fixed gallonage fog. Whichever one you choose works better for your department. There should be no decision making. The reason I say no, a fixed gallonage fog or a smooth bore, anything you have to decide which way, if I want to do a selected gallonage, no. That stuff's all determined beforehand. The only thing the nozzleman, Laguerre said this, is the only thing he should worry about is open or closed. That's application rate.
Nice.
As an officer, you really need to just be thinking too, like, hey, listen, this is my preset playbook. I have these things in the back of my head. If you haven't sat down and gone through these playbooks in your head, with Nate's fire, Nate died in Maryland almost 2 years ago now. His officer never realized that there was a possibility somebody in front of him could fall through the floor. I can tell that by her actions. You need to be mentally prepared for these things to do, because if you're not, that emotion takes over. And once emotion takes over your brain, you're in lizard brain that's done. I tell my guys all the time, that's why estimating stretch is so important, is you need to be good at it, and that's the main thing, one of the things I teach. It can't be done with, holy shit, there's fire blowing out a window or something like that. every fire is a fire of life until it's considered otherwise. You need to make these decisions without that emotional influence. So he's absolutely right. Chief's right. And even disciplinary, anything, whether it's a fire ground or in the firehouse. There's things that I've come back and people have said some stuff, and I'm just like, really? And I walk away, and I come back, and I go, well, is that a disciplinary offense or is it not? No, it's probably not. It's probably just how I reacted to it. So even in the firehouse, on the soft skills of it, it has to be solely based on the facts when you're looking. You can't let your emotions take. Once you go lizard brain, once you get stressed up, things go terrible on the fire ground and in the firehouse. I don't know if that answered it or not.
No, I think it was a very good answer, man, all the way across the board, from tactics to the firehouse. So awesome, man. Hey, thanks for the questions, guys. Kyle, thanks for coming on, and the books, everything. Thanks for doing the podcast. Thanks for putting together the conferences. Thanks for sharing the articles. And thanks for being an awesome guest. Is there anything coming up there? With everything going on in the world right now, I don't think there's anything coming up hardly for anybody, but anything you want to touch on?
There actually is. We're doing a webinar on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's called the Quarantine Firefighter Online Conference. I think we'll eventually change the name if we're going to do it regularly. Just call it like the Watch Desk Webinar or something like that. I didn't want to change the name now. This gets confusing. I don't want people to think we're trying to make fun of people that are quarantined, because I know there's people out there that are going stir crazy and dealing with some stuff that's it's terrible. And I hope everybody's doing well and taking care of themselves. And we're going to give anything, any of the gross stuff, the profits above and beyond what it costs to run it and stuff like that to a charity. Well, won't be much. It should be somewhere around $2,500, but hopefully that makes a difference for somebody. We're going to find a charity, whether it's just somebody who's wife or somebody got laid off. We need to supplement, or a volunteer or somebody got laid off, or we'll try to give it to an actual 501c3, and that way we can make sure all the money's going to where it needs to go.
Sure.
But yeah, that's coming up. It's $5 a day. We thought it was going to be like 50 people when I first made it. So I was like, $5 a day, that'll cover the cost. Because that internet stuff, that's not free. You got to pay for bandwidth, and you got to pay for attendees. And then when you add hosts, it increases it even more. And so we had to bump to the 1,000-person webinar. We're only around 600 to 750. I haven't looked in a while, registrants, but I mean, still a lot. But we want to make sure people know that all the instructors are doing it for free out of their, just to trying to help out. And then everything we make after everything's paid for will go towards we'll go to charity as well. So that's what we got coming up. It's going to be this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 10 to 2, 2 to 4 each day. So
and you got an awesome lineup of speakers coming on that.
Kurt Isaacson, Steve Robertson from Columbus, Dennis Laguerre, Daryl Liggins from Oakland. Some really big heavy hitters, some guys that maybe, if you're not as squirrely as I am, maybe you haven't heard before, but some guys that are some amazing instructors. And it's going to be ADD proof. It's 30 minutes to an hour each, with that 2-hour break in between. That way your wife or your husband can't get too mad at you for spending all day on the computer. You've got that nice 2-hour break in the middle where you can spend some time with your kids, do some stuff around the house. Because I know I couldn't sit in front of a computer for 4 or 6 hours straight. Especially an hour and a half lectures. That doesn't work for me. I got to have it quick and succinct. So they're going to be kind of mini lectures. It is going to be recorded and disseminated out. Of course, we don't want people to download it and share it with anybody else, because some of this stuff is proprietary information. And that's another big thing that I push on, is people need to respect people's intellectual property rights. And that's a big thing in the fire service. It's really kind of gone by the way, unfortunately. And that I do want to sound angry about. Anybody that rips off intellectual property rights is that's the one thing that probably makes me truly angry. Other than that,
truly pissed.
it's just kind of an intensity that my passion goes through. But
Lucky 13 powder coat.
Don't think I'm angry now.
No. Lucky 13 powder coat. So what's the name of the class? So hit the name of that again one more time.
It's the Quarantine Firefighter Online Conference. It's kind of a jumbled name. We were just kind of having a little bit of fun with it. Like I said, we're hoping maybe 50 people would sign up. But
and I'll share it. I'll post a link for you, Lucky, and get it on there.
It was the Quarantine Firefighter podcast, but then people are like, oh, great, people are traveling to West Point, because on Facebook it says, the location of the event. I'm like, no one's traveling. It's all on Zoom. If you guys do sign up, be a little patient with us. We're not sure what the bandwidth's going to be like with everybody working from home and the schools doing stuff. So it may be a little choppy at first, but we'll get it righted out. And then if you miss anything, it's going to be recorded, and we'll send that into your email inbox. So
awesome, man. Well, Kyle, Thank you for coming on and being a guest. It's been a pleasure. I love picking your brain, answering questions, fielding questions from the viewers. All the viewers that came and watched, thank you. Again, thank you for all you've done for the fire service, the Sons of the Flag, burn victims, the charities, all that stuff, man. It doesn't go unnoticed, and it shows your heart, and it's appreciated. So all that being said, thanks again for being a guest.
Thank you.
And for everyone else, thanks for watching. I hope the tone stays silent unless it's burning, guys. Stay safe out there.